I think Angel Reese should be happy about the Chicago Sky head coaching hire. Now, look, I'm not going to pretend I know more about this than I do. Um, he could turn out to be a great coach. He could turn out to be a terrible coach, right? I mean, until you see somebody actually do the job, it's impossible to know these things. But Tyler Marsh, who was hired by the Chicago Sky, was an assistant for the Las Vegas Aces. So obviously, with a pedigree in the WNBA with a winning team. We've seen the Aces become a bit of a coaching factory of late. The Valkyries with their hire, now the Sky with their hire. But I don't say this because I'm like, oh, he's a prodigy. And the Sky organization, a lot of people have said it's a mess enough to the point where I have to wonder about it at times. But if you're taking the pedigree from coaching as an assistant on the Las Vegas Aces, and then you go back and look at his past history of commentary around the Chicago Sky, I think you have to feel pretty good about it if you're Reese and company. Future of the Sky is in good hands. Young, tough, and don't give up about anybody's opinions other than their own. Got to respect it. Now, I think that falls into Kennedy Carter to a certain extent. Obviously, I think it falls into Angel Reese because Angel Reese has been critiqued a bunch, and I think she's brought a lot of it on herself. But at the same time, she certainly marches to the beat of her own drum. She don't, she ain't worried about the backlash. She's embraced it. I mean, she said, "Bring it on, Swifties." That takes some level of gumption, right? And here's another older tweet or post. Drastic difference in AR footwork when patient versus when rushed. Been on point today. Keep feeding her. So he has an opinion of Angel Reese as a basketball player there. And I think Angel, as a basketball player, if I'm evaluating her in total, her motor as an offensive rebounder is exemplary. It's just, you cannot teach that. Her versatility as a defender is very strong. She's not a great rim protector, but she can defend bigs, and she can also defend on the perimeter, get steals. I've seen some plays where she even stole the ball and got going in transition. Now, the finishing has been a problem. Scoring as a whole is another thing to unlock, but it can be done. She is coordinated enough. She's skilled enough to do it. She needs that face-up jump shot. If you can extend it to three, and she had showed at times she wasn't afraid to shoot the three. You extend it to three. You give her that little face-up, one dribble move off the face-up, and then maybe one back to the basket move. And all of a sudden, you've got a well-rounded offensive game. Number one, she's got to finish. Mike and drill. One over. This is the Mike and drill. What I'm doing. You finish on one side with the right hand, finish on the other side with the left hand. She's got to finish her layups. Just by doing that, yeah, her rebounding might come down a little bit, but her scoring is going to go way up, and her value is going to go way up. Another thing I think she can improve on is getting back in transition. I don't think Angel Reese gets back in transition nearly fast enough, especially when you look at how frenetic she is at getting to the loose ball in the basketball. But that's instinctual for her. So you see that this was someone who was sort of advising or coaching her from afar. And that has to feel good, because I do think she was catered to too much last season by Teresa Witherspoon and whatever else happened amongst the Chicago Sky, because they force fed her for some of those double doubles. It is what it is. I'm not going to tiptoe around it and lie. They did. It was stat padding. And at times, it was the most egregious stat padding I've ever seen. And the New York Liberty were like, no, not on our watch that one time. And even Kennedy Carter didn't even want to give her the ball that one time. And that's not instilling a winning culture. Building up the rest of her game so she doesn't need that double-double streak to fall back on to validate herself, because it felt like that at times. That was like her validation in the Rookie of the Year race. That's what's really going to unlock her. And Angel is a star off the court. There's no question. And she could go do that and be successful doing that without basketball. But in order for that to have impact beyond like shock value or, celebrity, like, look at me kind of status, or here's what I'm wearing kind of status, but like, impact from what she does on the court results have to continue to improve, and she has the ability to do so. And then there's the rest of the Sky roster too, because Camila Cardoso was a player who obviously had a big time college career, was drafted ahead of Angel Reese, and not really developed or prioritized by the Chicago Sky. And in looking at the past comments from Marsh, and of course I'm reading into just a couple of posts, it maybe is too much to maybe I'm doing a little bit too much. But if you are indeed, following all this, and you see that, and you see his opinion, and you know where he's coming from, where he's coaching Asia Wilson and others on the Aces, yeah, I think you feel pretty good about this hire if you're the Chicago Sky. I don't think Stephanie White was ever realistic for them. In fact, Annie over at the Chicago Sun-Times, I don't know her on a first name basis. I just her last name I don't know the pronunciation with, and I don't want to butcher it. But I gave her a shout out online, and I think she deserves a shout out. She's been all over the reporting in the WNBA, and I kind of think, and I she wouldn't come out and admit this, and nor should she. But I kind of think she linked Stephanie White to the Sky so that she could be the one to say, "Hey, Stephanie White's going to the Fever. Everybody, I got news for you. Stephanie White is going to the Fever." So I think she did that. But then she put out this Tyler Marsh thing earlier today that the Sky were targeting him as the next head coach, and then all of a sudden he is the next head coach. So again, I don't know too much about him other than what's out there. But he's comes from a winning culture. He's coached an elite big, obviously, and he seems to be fond of the personnel and the attitude on the Sky. And I think Reese needs somebody who's going to lock in with the gym with her and push her in a constructive fashion, right? Like push her to work on the not cater to her, not emphasize the things she already does well. There's no taking away from that, but building around the things she already does well. And that's how she ultimately takes the next step as a basketball player, because she has, she's always going to have value doing what she does. And you saw that on the All-Star team when she was playing off of others. But for her to stand on her own too as her own superstar, the rest of that game needs to be refined around the edges. And the same goes for Camila Cardoso as far as being featured more prominently. We'll see if the organization lives up to its reputation or not. That will be found out relatively fast. But I think on this day, Chicago Sky fans should feel pretty good about the move that they made. And it seems like they're bringing in somebody who takes the task and the position seriously with an affinity for their existing players.